time to get to the walkthrough. We're going to preview 3 of the biggest games for the weekend, and we'll get to our underdog picks, and we'll wrap it up. We're going to do super dogs this week as well, so 10-point underdogs. We're going to make some picks there as well. But let's talk about the game day game. Missouri going to Vanderbilt, which I love that this game has college football playoff stakes, which it does. It does. Missouri and Vanderbilt have their sights set on the college football playoff. Diego Pavia would love to get in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Like, there's quite a bit at stake here. Vanderbilt favored by 2.5 points at home. Again, this is a big opportunity for Mizzou for potential top 10 road win. Vanderbilt's actually kind of piled up their nice wins already. And obviously this would be a great one to get another one. But, we talked about this a little bit on Saturday, but this was a Vanderbilt team that thoroughly beat LSU. Like, they were pushing them around on the lines. Diego Pavia did Diego Pavia things, which means that he is throwing the ball, but also running and trying to get every potential last yard. And this was a team that expected to win the game, a fan base that expected to win the game, did not rush the field. So it feels like Vanderbilt is supposed to be there. I saw some quotes from Clark Lee this week. He went on Andy and Ari's podcast on 3, and he said that people want Vanderbilt to be in a little box in the corner, and we want them to be bad. And that's the way that people treat them. And they want them to be where they think they should be in the pecking order. And I thought that was so interesting because we've had this conversation about Indiana, and now this week with Indiana, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt all ranked in the top 10, it feels like it applies to all of them, where people are just so used to them being the punching bags or them being down. I know Georgia Tech's had their high points, but I think that is really important, that these are the types of games, and last week was too, where you're just changing the perception. You're like, we're not a fluky. It's not a huge upset when we beat a good team. That's just who Vanderbilt is right now. And I love that. I really want people to know that. And I think they've shown that in their performances this season. And last year, it was still like, oh my God, Vanderbilt did something.
Right.
But this year, it doesn't really feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that with Indiana too, in terms of how we're talking about them this year versus last year. I think it opens up to this interesting conversation that was happening on Twitter where this is a game with playoff implications, and we could get some first round games that don't have a traditional brand in them. And people are like, oh, the TV ratings on those games will be bad. And the natural response is, why do you and I care about TV ratings? That's something that suits would care about. But I do think it is an interesting window. The ratings certainly do reflect how people feel about games that they're watching. Close games obviously help with a rating, but also having teams that people are broadly interested in would help. And we've gotten to this place where I think that there are people who are fans of the sport, but only when big brands are playing, that are what is going on here? And I'm curious to see what that looks like in practice. You and I are going to sit there and we're going to watch and enjoy every single one of these games. But this is probably a little bit of my hate for the expanded playoff coming in. But
Joshua,
we're also.
Don't you think that some of what you're saying is because we just it's the beginning of a turnaround? Don't you think in a few years we'll be used to Indiana being relevant, and then a big Indiana game will register differently with people, and maybe that is a bigger game? Versus now people being like, oh, well, it's just Indiana. People won't watch that.
Broadly, I'm not convinced. I think that there are going to be people who are every single time Indiana's playing, regardless of how Alabama is, if they're playing at the same time, they're watching Alabama. Right? I think there are people that exist like that.
I think you're right, but I would just hope that as these programs grow, which is one of the benefit of this era, is that places like that, and that they can keep their coaches too.
No, for sure.
I would just hope that people get used to the idea that there are more contenders, and it's not just the same. This is the problem in the 14 playoff era. There were 3 teams we would pencil in every single year. And then maybe 3 teams that we would consider for the 4th spot. So there were 6 teams that mattered all year. Yes. Also, they didn't all play each other all the time. So even now we talk about all these ranked unranked games. That's because all of those teams have a path and are interesting and are in the playoff picture. So it bothers me so much because it feels so similar to the debates and the way people viewed it in the 4-team era, where there were so many people that didn't want Cincinnati to get a shot, didn't want, Coastal Carolina. Like, instead of in college basketball, I feel like we celebrate the Cinderellas, and in college football, we don't. There's so many people that root for the big brands and the blue bloods to crush the little guys. And we saw that a lot in the way people talked about Indiana and rooted against Indiana last year.
No doubt.
I don't know why with college football people act this way.
I don't know either, but this is me finding another way to hate on the bigger bracket. Like, I'm not exactly sure that we needed to get to a place where we would have people openly apathetic about playoff games because of the brands that were in them, right? Like, I feel like this sport has always existed in a great spot to where, like, I would turn on any bowl game regardless of who was playing. And frankly, like the BCS busters that would get into the New Year's Six games, that was great for me. And I didn't need it to be great because there was a path for them to win a title. It was just great because it was college football. And I think that's part
bowl games still draw well. Like that is still backed up.
But my whole point is, like, none of this ever had to be a big deal. Like, I would be excited about Vanderbilt being good, regardless if that meant they could actually win a title or not. And I feel like that's the one problem with this sport is, like, even when you say that Vanderbilt can win a title, there are going to be a bunch of people who are like, I don't care because it's Vanderbilt. And I think we should just like college football because it's college football, period. That's my whole
and I just think that, like,
on it.
I have always, when Rutgers has a big win, or when Kansas did before they again kind of became like a legitimate contender in the Big 12, or at least middle of the pack, I would always like make sure I did a story on those teams.
Sure.
Because, and not in like this, like, haha, can you believe they won a game? No, like, to truly celebrate a step, because I think they are the punching bags in.
I mean, your top 10s in the past where you would put one of the stories of the day at 10, like, it was a great thing to read.
And people get so mad though.
But again, because they don't like college football.
Right. That's my point. I just think that people want these things to be the butt of the joke. They want, to just kind of pencil in a win over that team. And it's what Clark Lee was saying, that, like, you want to put them in a box. You want them to be at the bottom. And you just want this place to be like a miserable place that never really has success. And I think that is just I agree that a lot of people view it that way. And it's just a terrible way to view college football. It's why, we're buds with the Sickos Committee. Like, they do a great job of celebrating every single corner of the sport. They're fans of every single team. And there's lots of people who just love the stories and the seasons and the players on these teams and would be thrilled to watch Diego Pavia in a playoff game. Doesn't matter if it's Vanderbilt on the schedule. Is that going to be up against an NFL game? Again, that's for the suits. That's for the suits to argue about. I know this has been like a tangent on the Missouri Vanderbilt game.
Big tangent. Sorry, guys.
Big tangent. We talked about Ahmad Hardy and what Mizzou does really well. Really good defense as well. I wonder, just as you quickly look at this one before we get to the next game, like, where's the game one? What's the key matchups that you're interested in here?
So I feel like this is a game that won't have a lot of points. And you mentioned what Vanderbilt has done along the lines of scrimmage. They have played very, very well. And I think that's where Missouri has been very good too. They want to run the football a ton, and their defensive line is good at creating pressure. They're good at getting into the backfield. And so to me, I think that the idea of winning in the margins is one that stands out to me in this game. Like, could it be a big special teams play? I'm not sure. The going for it on fourth down, where I felt like Eli Drinkwitz against Alabama was maybe too much of like, these are all got to have it situations instead of playing field position a little bit. And Vanderbilt's been one of those teams where they're like, man, screw it. We got Diego, fourth down. Let's go for it. I think those might be the deciding factor in a game like this, but I'm very excited because I think it's going to be closely contested, and I'm also excited because I think we might see some good defense here.
Yeah, and again, potential Heisman moment for Diego Pavia, who struck the pose last week.